I'm Sarah Griffiths. I'm the study manager for the UK-based PRIDEM study, and I'm going to present some initial learning around the inclusion of people living with dementia in research and strategies for making it a positive experience. PRIDEM is funded by the Alzheimer Society and is a collaboration between University College London and Newcastle University. The aim of the PRIDEM programme is to develop sustainable approaches to primary care and post-diagnostic dementia care, maintain and improve quality of life for people with dementia and their families. By primary care, we mean care provided in the community, including by GP surgeries. The initial work streams of the programme involved examining existing and supporting people with some conditions within primary care, gathering experiences of stakeholders, and developing a new approach or intervention. Key components of post-diagnostic support were identified and used to develop an intervention focusing on sustainable change in 3 interlinked areas: developing systems, for instance, for referrals and service transitions, and establishing a name point of contact for each person with dementia, delivering tailored care and support, including improving approaches and resources for annual dementia reviews and personalised care planning, and building capacity and capability within primary care, for instance, building practice-based dementia teams and providing support and bespoke training to upskill them. The 3 areas are led by a clinical dementia lead from a nursing or allied health background, collaborating with local stakeholders, providing expert knowledge, resources, and support. In the current PRIDEM workstream, we're testing the feasibility and implementation of the PRIDEM intervention when delivered in primary care networks, which are groups of GP practices working alongside other health and social care organisations to provide integrated services to the local population. Given that people lacking capacity are underrepresented in research and the growing need for interventions that support inclusion, we wanted to explore challenges to and strategies for inclusion during the PRIDEM recruitment phase. To develop research processes, the team have worked very closely with the PRIDEM dementia care community, a patient, public and practitioner involvement group. The focus for this presentation is on, first of all, the recruitment process. We took an ethical, proactive approach to recruiting people with dementia and carers, using an initial mail out with accessible study information and follow-up telephone calls to non-responders, using flexible script developed with the dementia care community. Although we've recruited well, with 75% of the recruitment target achieved, we're interested in examining reasons for actively opting out to address inclusion for future studies. And second, I'll give a flavour of some challenges and potential enhancements to our baseline data collection. This consisted of cognitive screening and health and wellbeing questionnaires, options for virtual or home visits, and options for carers to self-complete questionnaires, including via online survey. And this learning is informed by ongoing PPI work, researcher reflections, and interviews with participants. The majority of follow-up calls made to non-responders, where the outcome was to opt out, was where the researcher spoke with the carer and not the person living with dementia. We were left wondering if there was more we could do to reassure and support carers, and the following slide explores this more. A common reason for opting out was carer strain. Where a person with dementia has advanced dementia or doesn't speak English, we would need a carer to take part alongside. But carers are, in one potential participant's words, too busy doing all the dementia care. Potential strategies could be including funding for replacement care in research funding applications, collaborating with carer charities in the design phase, costing in interpreters, and collaborating with local language groups. We also felt we could have been more explicit in the study information that people with advanced dementia and those who are non-English speaking can still take part alongside carers, and more explicit about how carers could be supported to participate. Another reason was that the person with dementia gets anxious talking with new people. We made a video version of the study information sheet, but in future we could improve this, showing more members of the friendly research team, showing examples of other people living with dementia talking about taking part, and showing them taking part in the video. Depending very much on the nature of the data, other solutions could be training up carers to collect and record the data. A third reason was that the person living with dementia was in denial and it would be too distressing to take part. One carer said the use of the word dementia on the information sheet was off-putting, and this comment from a PPI contributor at the bottom of the slide highlights just how off-putting terminology can be to some people. Some thoughts on this are that we tried to limit the use of the word dementia in the study documentation using memory and thinking problems, but it's in the title of the study. We talked with carers who would help let us know early on what words we could use when we met people, which was very individual. For instance, one person was fine with cognitive impairment, but not dementia. Carers also told us that when their loved one is in denial, it usually means that they don't get the support they need for themselves. There's also been lots of learning from collecting the baseline data, and here I'm presenting some headlines. We soon discovered that trialing the timing of outcome measures with PPI contributors can lead to an underestimation of the time needed. Despite developing a hybrid recruitment and baseline data collection approach, all participants opted for most of the contacts with researchers to be in person at their homes. Some carers chose to complete an online survey about their own health and well-being after they'd met us face-to-face and found this an acceptable option. 2 carers chose to complete some questionnaires via a video call to fit in with work and because they live distantly from the person with dementia. And participants generally report that in-person visits bring much needed conversation and company in the post-COVID restrictions. Carers in particular needed longer than anticipated to expand on multiple choice responses and verbalize emotional responses. We've reflected on the potential therapeutic benefits of the research visit, with carers telling us they have no one to talk to about their experiences and that it was a difficult but also positive experience to be asked about it. Because of delays to the research timeline, partly due to pressures within primary care, we were unable to routinely factor in peer research, which would have been the ideal option. Funding applications need to consider researcher capacity and support. We used cue cards to support participants to respond to multiple choice questions. These were a visual prompt aiding recall and staying on track. For video calls, they could be sent in the post. Both people with dementia and carers have said these were enormously helpful. It's also worked to not single out the person with dementia for special communication support when they can see that we have cue cards for the carers as well. Another benefit is that when a participant is worried that a relative can hear their responses from another room, they can just point. And as shown here, one researcher presented the strategy in terms of needing to save her own voice when repeating options, which was also very handy. And finally, we're reflecting on the use of the outcome measures themselves. For example, there were instances where responses from people living with dementia on certain measures like the quality of life measures EQ, 5D, 5L, and DEMQUAL were skewed towards a completely no problem presentation, and this varied significantly from the proxy measures completed by carers. It can be difficult to unpick whether this is due to a genuine perception, reduced understanding of the questions, wanting to save face, or protecting the feelings of the carer or themselves. In these situations, it was usually discussed with the carer and a decision made about whether to complete the same measures at follow-up or not. Standardized questionnaire wording can be complex, even though deemed suitable for use in dementia research. See, for example, some wording from the MOCA here. This can lead researchers to taking different approaches, often rephrasing to support communication. This resonates with Jones's recent paper highlighting interactional variation amongst practitioners delivering cognitive tools and the implications for better guidance, training, and scripting for such tools, and throws up a question about data validity. When completing proxy quality of life measures about the person with dementia, carers comment this is highly problematic when the dementia is more advanced. They can't guess at the loved one's emotions. Discomfort is common amongst researchers and participants. Although happy to take part, one carer reported that the impact of thinking about the effects of dementia on her life lasts well after the researcher has left the house. She said it helps to have a researcher who is a nice person and a good listener, and that researchers should really emphasize that the range of dementia symptoms that come up in the questionnaires are not inevitable. All these reflections highlight the need for researcher training, support, and continued consideration of participant emotional burden and appropriate outcome measures. So I've presented a snapshot of the learning from the PRIDEM recruitment phase. A reflection from a PPI contributor is that many of the challenges presented here apply equally to healthcare as they do in research. And we're continuing to collect data to inform a final paper. We'd be really keen for any of your comments on the points raised so far. Here are some references to look back at and some contact details. I'd like to thank the dementia care community and Chandrika for all their input and support.